Hi, my name is Tara Kachaturoff, and I'm the host of Michigan Entrepreneur, where we feature businesses from startup to stellar. This week we have as our guest David Moncour, founder and principal of Moncour Associates. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Tara. It's nice to be here.
Again.
Again, yes.
We've had you on here several times because you have such a diversity of knowledge around branding and rebranding and social media, social networking, all those types of things that are important for companies to grow. And today we'll be covering some more topics with you. But before we get started, why don't you tell us about Moncour Associates, what you do, and then we'll talk about some of the new things you're doing in your business today.
Okay. Well, Moncour Associates, we call ourselves a web-centric advertising agency. We specialize in branding, web, and advertising type of work. We help companies define who they are and then create integrated plans that take them to the market in all the different mediums which actually drive their business. And we think that the web has become that central medium, so hence the web-centric advertising.
So you're doing everything from blogging, podcasting. What are the areas you're covering with people nowadays?
Well, you know, we help people define their message. That's really fundamental. I think it'll be a part of our conversation today. We help people figure out what their brand looks like visually. We help create their web presence and all the different things that entails, everything from your traditional corporate communications to commerce online. We help people with social media and network-centric marketing so they can figure out how to take advantage of the Web 2.0 techniques and technologies to sort of drive their business online and drive awareness of their business. It's exciting always the first time to get a call from a client who says, someone called today and they found us on Google. You know, it's very exciting for them. Yesterday they had nothing, today they had something, and to them they didn't do anything for it. So we help people figure out how to make that happen for their business. It's
and you
very
get
exciting.
their whole vision all integrated among everything, whether it's their business cards, their marketing collateral, their website, how they put their name out there.
That's right. That's one of the areas that we really feel is our strength. A lot of times you would hire a creative firm, a branding firm to work on the brand, and then you'd hire a technology company to do the website, and then you'd work with a SEO firm to help deal with things on the internet, and you might have a media company that specializes in just the media piece. And because we offer all of those different specialties within our company, companies that work with us end up with kind of an integrated solution, which we think is a little more intelligent maybe than it would be to try and manage all those pieces outside. We can figure out very easily how they connect to one another and how to have an increased effect in one area because you were also focused on something else. So we do all those things.
And that's nice because it's one-stop shopping, because when you start hiring multiple people, because I've watched my friends do that, you get this conglomeration of things that don't really match, even though you're trying to get the website people to do this or that. I mean, it just becomes a jumble,
Right.
and it actually looks worse than if they would have just gone one place and done the whole project with one group that can do it all, because it just doesn't speak to each other. The parts get all off sync.
Right, and it's not just how it looks, it's the result that it creates. In order to manage all those different relationships, one has to be somewhat of an expert at each one of them, and then to create a result, one needs to understand how they interact with one another. And if you don't do that, or one of the people on one of those teams doesn't do that, you end up with a whole bunch of efforts that could have been so much more, or could have been successful where they weren't. So there's a lot to be said for understanding how they all fit together.
And the one thing about when they're working with you, because you have that diversity on your staff to handle all these pieces, is that when you need to tweak, which all of these things need tweaking once it's put out there, I mean, dials have to be turned a little bit, maybe in the SEO part or this or that. It can all happen, and everybody knows what's happening in all the teams, and
Right.
they're working on your project, as opposed to running back to your web person for this and that, and running over here to the media people, running over there. I mean,
Right.
I can't imagine how much more people have to spend when they're hiring 6 agencies to help them do
if they can
something.
even do it.
If they can even do it, that's right.
Because
that's right.
it gets very complicated.
And all the meetings and the frustration.
Right, and the web has really brought an unprecedented level of vision into what's actually happening as a result of what you do. There's not a lot of guessing anymore. I want to test something and I want to know how something works. I run the test online and I track the statistics of what actually happened, and I use that intel to adjust all the other marketing avenues that we're pursuing. Because the web seems to be a pretty good estimate of what else is going on in traditional media or print or it helps us get the message right when we're doing either social networking or print collateral for their salespeople, whatever it is.
And what's nice is that you actually can benchmark all of this and show them results. I mean, you can show them measurable, quantified
Right,
feedback.
more than they'll ever want to read.
Right.
It gets very deep.
We know
right.
where they clicked, at what time they clicked, and where they,
I know, sometimes the data is overwhelming. We try and make it really simple.
Well, today we're gonna segue over and talk about something called rebranding, which I know you've done for many people, because many people come to you when they want to refresh what they've put out there to the public. So we're going to talk about rebranding and what goes into that, and why that could even be important right now with the downturn in the economy, which is affecting everybody across the nation, around the world. So we're going to talk about what that is and why it's important, and how you help people with the rebranding process, because you do that daily.
Absolutely.
So first of all, what is rebranding from your perspective? What is it?
I think to answer that, let me step back a couple of steps. So when there's a brand new company coming out, they need to create a brand. So they would brand themselves. And at a certain point in the life cycle of that organization, either because circumstances have changed or they have changed, or maybe it's just not working, they need to go through a process called rebranding, which is the process of reinventing yourself. So we think of a brand as the sum total of all the things that go into what people feel about what you do. It might be how you look in your website or your logo. It might be how you sound in the copy that's in that communication, or the way that you speak about what it is you do. It's all those things together create an emotion which becomes your brand, and that's the thing that people feel about you when they think about what it is you offer. So rebranding is the process of changing that, and there's a reinventing that, and there's a bunch of reasons that you might actually get into rebranding. You mentioned the downturn in the economy. My personal belief is that we are experiencing less of a downturn in the economy and more of a fundamental change in the global business economy.
Oh, okay.
And it's creating an effect here locally that is a downturn, right? And what I believe is that the forces in the universe that sort of control where money goes, they're different now than they used to be. And people have to talk about themselves differently, sell themselves differently, because they're competing with different people. You used to compete with the people down the street. Now you're competing at a minimum regionally or maybe globally. And in order to win in that environment, you have to come off differently. So the brand that used to sell to your neighbor doesn't sell to your neighbor anymore, and maybe the reason is because you're no longer competing with the guy up the street, you're competing with someone in another state, and the message has to be different and the brand has to be different. So those are some of the things that might kick off one of these rebranding initiatives. They say, hey, I'm getting my butt kicked by the competition, what do I do? Oftentimes that can be corrected by rebranding.
And what are some other reasons people have come to your agency to work with you when it came to rebranding? What were some of their reasons?
I'm
just tired of the colors. I'm tired of our look, our message.
It's really funny. People come to our agency for a number of reasons. One is that they come and their website is terrible. They want to fix their website, and that oftentimes almost exclusively ends up with a conversation about their brand, because it's not so much that their website is wrong, it's presenting who they are. It's
right.
that their brand is wrong, and then their website is not presenting the right thing. They come to us because they're getting killed competitively. And rebranding is what they think they need to do in order to reposition themselves competitively in the marketplace so that they can succeed. Oftentimes, they feel that what they're offering is just fine, it's just how it's being perceived is not. And so competitively, they're not doing very well there. A lot of times people will come to rebrand because of just a general desire to increase sales. That's usually what motivates most people who want to increase their sales, or excuse me, to rebrand, is that they want to sell more.